What's up? Kulmukuli from Team Kulmukuli here, and today I'm bringing you a Dark World deck profile. So make sure, if you enjoyed the deck profile and the video and the cards I'll show you, make sure to subscribe and leave a like so I can bring you more deck profiles like this. So let's start the deck profile. First, I will show you that we play 2 copies of Rainbow. This card's pretty good, and I dropped it from 3 to 2 in the last week because it really clogged up the deck. But what this card does, when this card is discarded, you get to search a level 5 or higher Dark World monster, and if it is discarded by an opponent's card effects, you get to summon a card from your deck to any side of the field. You can also bring a Dark World card from the field to the hand, so you can summon it from the graveyard. You'll see that I actually play a lot of very controversial ratios in this deck, which we'll get to very soon. But let's continue with 2 copies of Grapha. This is basically, if this card is discarded, pop a card on the field, and if it's discarded by your opponent's card effect, you get to choose 1 card in your opponent's hand, and if it's a monster, you get to summon it. It has the same effect as Rainbow, where you can return a card from the field to the hand and summon it from the grave. Then we play 1 copy of Lucent. This card, if it's discarded, it special summons itself. Then, if this card is discarded by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon Fiend monster from your deck to either field. For example, you can summon Cerulli off of this, because Cerulli does the exact same. It makes you discard 1. Then you play 1 copy of Scylla. This deck is not meant to do hand loop. It's meant to build board presence and make good boards, not give your opponent a headache. What this card does is the same as Lucent. Summons itself, it is discarded, and if it is discarded by an opponent's card effect, you make them rip 2 and put it on the bottom of the deck. This card is actually banned in Master Duel, and I see why. Next is Gold. Same as these 2, summons itself, it is discarded, and if it is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can destroy up to 2 cards, and target 2 cards and destroy them. Then the first controversial ratio is to Genta. I don't really see a problem with 2 Gentas, because you get to use each one, it's once per turn. The banishment is once per turn, but the search is not. So if you get to use it twice, you don't need to use it twice. It's just stuck in the banishment. Next, what I play is 3 copies of Snow. This is pretty standard. I thought I could play 2, but it's just for that extra consistency. You can drop 1 Snow actually for a Genta, because it's so much more important actually so you get the gates. But you can also get gates from this. Next is I play 1 Cerulli. What this card does, if it's discarded by a Dark World card, you can summon it to your opponent's field, and then you discard 1, which counts as an opponent making you discard 1. So you can get that sweet second effect of monsters. Next, what I'm playing is 1 copy of Beige. This is just like these guys, but without the second effect. So it's pretty underrated, but it's a good level 4, which you can use with Genta, so you can summon rank 4s. Then I play the last Dark World monster is Brow. If it's discarded, you draw 1. If it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you draw 2. So that's for Dark World monsters. Let's get into the dangers, which are really the ones that you're going to be using the most to discard shit. First things first, I play 2 Nessie. This is actually pretty standard. Basically, every Dark World profile you're actually going to watch is 2 Nessie, because you can reel this card. This is all the dangers. You can reel the danger. Then opponent chooses 1 random card in your hand. You discard it. If it's not Nessie, you summon it and draw a card. If it is Nessie, example, every danger has a different one. So Nessie has an effect that if it is discarded by its, in any way, if it's just discarded, you get to search a danger, which is pretty insane. Even if it fails, it's great because it replaces itself. Next, I play 1 Jackalope. This obviously has been limited to 1, because either way you get it summon. If it is discarded, you summon a danger from the deck. If it's not discarded, you summon it and draw 1. Then I play 2 Mothman. Again, a level 4. if it's discarded, both players draw one and discard one. The same if it's not discarded, you summon it and draw one. Then you could swap Bigfoot for Thunderbird, but I just feel we're in like a monster heavy format, so this is kind of good going second. But it's also good going first in some situations, if like your opponent Nibiru's you and you still have this in your hand somehow. But like the same, if it is discarded, you'd pop a card. Another limited to one danger, it is Tushinoko or Tushinoshi, whatever. Just call it Noodle if you don't know how to pronounce it. If it is discarded, it summons stuff. If it's not discarded, you summon it and draw one. So of course it's limited one, just as like Jackalope. Next we have some interesting cards that you can play and you cannot play, and it's the exact same card. You can replace them with different cards. First one I'm playing is 3 copies of Quokimero Guardian. If you don't know, this deck is very, very sensitive to droll. If you get drolled in this deck, you die. Like, there's no coming back. Except if you play Fenrir, which you probably don't. Well, this card, if an opponent activates monster effect, you can tribute this card and negate it. So if your opponent drolls you, you negate the effect. Same with Nibiru, except if I think you can activate Nibiru multiple times per turn. But this card is very good, just like for protection. This next card I actually discovered, and I thought, wait, this card's pretty good. So I played 2 copies of Cursed Bridal. What this card is, if you draw it, you get to reveal it to your opponent and summon it. You see why this is good? Infinite Link material. Because you can literally do this on your opponent's turn when you draw your hand. And like, you start a duel, you get your hand and say, Bridal, reveal it, summon it. You already have a monster on the field even though you haven't even started your turn. Because we even draw a lot of cards in this deck, so we get to do it, to draw it even without the first turn. What it also can do is it puts itself from the deck back to the top, from the graveyard back to the deck, so you can draw it again and summon it again. Then another card we play is Zephyros, the Blackwing. This is basically just Grapha and Rainbow, but for any card, but you play 400. So this is how you get the Grapha back to the hand, but you pay 400. And the last one, non-danger / Dark World monster, is Catalyzer. This is reveal Catalyzer and another Fiend. Discard one and summon the other. I usually do this with Snow, because I usually draw them. But it's a free level 4. Like, there's nothing else to say about this card. And also, if a card is destroyed, you can summon it. You return it back to the hand, sorry. Next, the spells. I'm playing 1 copy of Dark World Dealings. You can, instead of the Bridal, you can play 2 of these guys. Because each player draws 1 card and discards 1 card. It's really not that insane, but it's like, you usually don't need it, but if you need it, it's there. The next thing we play is 2 Accessions. This is the fusion spell of the deck, and it's probably the best fusion spell we could have gotten. The only thing that could have been better is that it's not main phase only. What this card does is it allows you to fusion summon a Fiend by banishing cards from the graveyard or field. And if you're summoning a Dark World monster, you can also discard cards. And then you can recycle it by discarding a Fiend monster, and you get it from the graveyard to the hand, which is actually pretty good. Then next we play Card Destruction. This card is, I'm happy that this is at 1, because then everyone would play it. Because both players discard the entire hand and then draw how much they discarded. And then another controversial ratio, 2 gates. Sorry, I had to, because you can only, as I said, Genta is banishment once per turn. What this is you banish a Fiend, then you discard a Fiend, and then you draw 1. Also, all Fiends on the field, even your opponents, get 300 attack and defense. What I play next is Puppetry. This is either an interruption or a extender. What it does is you banish 3 cards from either grave and then discard 1, Fiend, and then during your main phase, except the time that this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it and recover 1 Fiend from banishment. Another kinda controversial ratio is 1 Dark Corridor, because it's once per turn. You just add a Dark World monster from deck to hand. And then the last one is Archives, because it's Archives. Basically, if you discard a card by a Dark World card, you can chain this and discard 1 and draw 2. It's the exact opposite of what it should be, but you know. And then there's something that cards that get attacked, but that rarely comes up. And we only play 1 trap. And I actually like this trap, even though people don't play it as much. And that trap is Dark World Punishment. It's a summon negate. It's just summon. You discard a card in summon, and it's also protection for Dark Worlds. Then you might have realized that this is not 40 cards. That's because I play a card that many people would not, and that's the Old Rainbow. We use this for a fusion summon that not too long ago, I think it's Maze of Millennia, it came out. And if it's discarded, this is only by opponent's card effect. This card's like ridiculously shit. If it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you either get to Raigeki your field, your opponent's field, or Harpy Setter Dust your opponent's field. So it's okay, but it's not amazing. Then we get to the extra deck. Here's the fusion that we need the Old Rainbow for. Colorless. This thing is a board wiper and it hits the field. It clears your opponent's entire board. Then the materials, as you see, are the Old Rainbow and 2+ Fiends. The reason why is it gets 1,000 attack for each material you use. So if you use 6 cards, it will have 6,000 attack. If you use 10 cards, it will have 10,000 attack. You see why this is extremely good going second. If you draw into a session and you have a way to get to Rainbow, the Old Rainbow, you win. Like, you win. Because this board wipes your opponent's field, and you can even chain block that effect with its own effect, which is that you can target 1 card on your field, 1 field on your field, Dark World I think, and discard a card and it make it unaffected. So you can chain block, it can chain block itself. Next what you play is 2 Grandfas, 2 Fusion Grandfas. If you don't know what this card does, I don't know what you're doing. This is a negate basically. If it makes your opponent's effects that you discard 1 card, so it counts that your opponent makes you discard 1. And also if it gets destroyed, you summon a Grandfa back and both players discard 1. Then we have a new card actually from Infinite Forbidden. It's Aerial Eater. You also can fusion this because it's a fiend. You can do it a session, but you have to banish it. What is it is a Foolish Burial. You send Grandfa if you don't have it. Like you can send any fiend from deck to grave. It's great. It's a great card. I don't use it as much as I should, but it's a great card just because it's Foolish Burial. Then the XYZ cards. Again, pretty standard shit. Dugaris. This thing has 3 effects. Either you skip the next draw phase and draw 2 cards and discard 1. You can skip your next main phase and special summon from your graveyard a card in defense position. And you skip your next battle phase, but a card gets double attack. You see why we need a lot of level 4s. Next is especially good in this format, Abyss Dweller. This is a pretty good card. It just like turns off your opponent's grave, nothing special. You can detach material and turns off your opponent's grave on turn. Another card from Infinite Forbidden. It's actually a card that negates your opponent's monster forever. It's actually Phobos. Why I play this is because if you're going second and an opponent has like a very, very like annoying monster, you can, instead of Dugaris or Dweller, make Phobos and negate an opponent's card forever. Like, it's not until the end of the turn, until this card leaves the field. It's just negate the effects of that card. And then if it battles with that card, you take it. And the last XYZ I play is, of course, 38. Like, this thing eats spells. Like, what else can I say about this card? Then we get into the links, probably the most important engine of this entire deck, and the most important one is, of course, Nutcracker. This thing is protection, this thing is a revive, and it's just amazing, but sadly it cannot be used for a link material the turn it's summoned. That's the only thing that it's missing, but it's probably for the better. Next thing you have is Akashic Magician. This is for the hand loop. You get to the hand loop, actually, because this build doesn't really come to the hand loop that much. And what it is, if you summon this card, return all cards that this card points to the hand. So I'll show you in the combo, but what this card basically is that you summon it into the extra monster zone. You have Ceruli here and Sylva here. You return them both, and you can do the hand loop again. The next link we have is a Nightmare card. It's Nightmare Unicorn. Pre-discard, it's a spin. It spins it back to the deck. And if it's co-linked, which actually that happens a lot for some reason to me, you draw a card. Another Nightmare replay is Nightmare Griffin. I actually use this card a lot to Griffin lock your opponent. Basically, what it is that if you summon this card out, no one can activate monster effects as long as they are not connected to this. So if, let's say I have a monster here, right? It can activate the effect because it's linked. If it would be here, it can't activate an effect because it's not linked. So this is called the Griffin lock, which I actually use quite a lot. Then another pretty standard card is which is called Dread, because it's basically a draw. Because depending on how many cards you use as material, you get that many effects. But the one you'll be using the most is probably the last one, is that you draw 4 cards and then put 3 on the bottom of the deck, which is basically a +1 and a recycle. So if you like have an extra Quokimeru Guardian that you don't need, you just put it on the bottom. And the last one is kind of a board breaker, is Goddess of the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Basically, you can use 1 card on your opponent's field as material for this card. And it also turns off, it's a Dark Ruler more. Now I'm gonna show you some side deck recommendations that I usually play. It's 2 Cosmic. You almost never go into the side deck here. There are like maybe 2 exceptions, but this is basically pay 1000 banish card. The next one is, what you need to realize here is that you don't play normal ball breakers. You don't play Raigeki, you play Lightning Vortex. Example, you don't play Heartbeast Feather Duster, you play Twin Twisters. Then another Accession, just in case you need it. If you really like, oh god, I'm not drawing this, you just put it in. Then the Floodgates, Anti-Spell Fragrance, duh. 2 Skill Drain. We actually have a QCR, give us a thumbs up, because we need more of these. Then Summon Strike, you can use this, like, you can replace some, you don't need to play this side deck. Not these cards. I'm gonna show you some more cards that you kind of need to play in the side deck. And another Punishment, because you never know how much your opponent summons and if they like to go second. Because if you're like play against Stampai, you definitely decide that in because they summon a lot. And then these cards need to be in the side deck. And they're actually extra deck monsters. I'm probably the only person in the store that puts shit in the side, extra deck monsters in the side deck. The first one is the Guska. This is anti-Tempai. This is just anti-Tempai. Because it makes everything go into defense position. And then the second one is for game 3 only, it's Coach King. This thing burns, and it makes you draw 1. So if you're in game 3 and you're really close to the timer, which happens a lot with this deck because it combos for like 10 minutes, you go into Coach King. You do need 3 level 8s, but that's not really that hard in this deck. You just like grind towards it. And then you just burn your opponent and stall for the next, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then you just let them go and you win by just timeout.
Hey, Kulmukul here. I see you liked the deck profile if you watched it till the end. If we get enough likes, maybe I'll make a combo video. And subscribe too, because that makes me more like determined to make these videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.